They were unstoppable. The Mongol horde, fast, ruthless, brilliant in war, had already crushed China, Persia, and Russia. By the mid-13th century, the world trembled at the sound of hoofbeats across the steppe. And then, something changed. There was one battle, one clash of empires, that slammed the brakes on their conquest of the East, a battle that few outside Asia talk about today. But it may have saved an entire region from total domination. This is the story of the Battle of Ain Jalut, the day the tide turned against the Mongols. Let's rewind. It's 1258. The Mongols, under Hulagu Khan, sack Baghdad, the beating heart of the Islamic world. In a matter of days, a city of 1 million people is reduced to ash. The Abbasid Caliphate, once a mighty empire of science and culture, is no more. From there, the Mongols push west, through Persia, through Syria, with their eyes set on Egypt, the last real power in the Islamic world. At this point, the Mongols look unbeatable. Every army that stood in their way was crushed. They used tactics the world had never seen before: lightning-fast cavalry, perfect coordination, psychological warfare, and brutal reprisals. But just as Hulagu was preparing to storm Egypt, he received news from the east. The great Khan, Monkey, had died in Karakorum, and by Mongol law, all princes had to return home for the election of a new Khan. Hulagu took most of his forces and returned to Mongolia, leaving behind a smaller army under his general Kitbuka, a fierce warrior, but without the numbers Hulagu once commanded. Meanwhile, in Egypt, the Mamluks were ready. The Mamluks were no ordinary army. They were warrior slaves, mostly Turkic and Circassian boys captured as children, raised as elite soldiers, trained in the art of war from the age of 7. They knew Mongol tactics. Some had even fought in previous campaigns. And now, under the leadership of Sultan Qutuz and the legendary General Baybars, they prepared to make a stand. The two forces met in the valley of Ain Jalut in modern-day northern Israel on September 3, 1260. The Mongols expected another easy victory. After all, they had crushed empires much larger than the Mamluks. But this time, the script flipped. The Mamluks used deception. They staged a retreat, a classic Mongol tactic, and lured Kitbuka's forces into a trap. As the Mongols pursued the retreating Mamluks into the valley, they were ambushed from all sides. Hidden Mamluk forces erupted from the hills, cutting off escape routes. Kitbuka fought fiercely, refusing to retreat, but he was eventually captured and executed. The Mongols, for the first time in their empire's history, were decisively defeated on open ground. Let that sink in. The unstoppable army stopped. This battle wasn't just a tactical victory, it was symbolic. It showed the world, and the Mongols, that they were not invincible. But more importantly, it had massive ripple effects. The Mongols never again launched a serious campaign into the heart of the Middle East. Egypt was saved. Islamic civilization in the region survived. And from there, the Mamluk Sultanate rose in power and prestige, becoming defenders of the Islamic world for the next 2 centuries. Think about it. If the Mongols had conquered Egypt, the gateway to North Africa, there's no telling how far they might have gone. The Mediterranean could have become a Mongol sea. The Crusader states, already weakened, might have been swept away in the chaos. The balance of power in the entire Eastern Hemisphere might have tilted forever. Instead, a single battle, Ain Jalut, marked the beginning of the Mongol decline in the West. Of course, the Mongol Empire didn't vanish overnight. They remained a terrifying force in Central Asia and China for generations. But their aura of invincibility shattered. The Mamluks had done the impossible. Today the Battle of Ain Jalut isn't as famous as Hastings or Waterloo, but maybe it should be. Because on that day, in a dusty valley in the Levant, the fate of the East, maybe even the world, changed. And it all came down to a bold trap, a fearless army of former slaves, and the first crack in the armor of the greatest empire the world had ever seen. History has many turning points, but few are as dramatic or as overlooked as this.